fasting and special foods. Well, on to the top story. Israel launched an airstrike early on Thursday morning targeting the health authorities center affiliated with Hezbollah, killing 6 people. Israeli military said it conducted precise strikes in central Beirut's Bachora neighborhood close to parliament. The nearest Israeli strikes have come to Lebanon's seat of government. At least 6 people were killed and 7 wounded in the strikes. While 3 missiles also hit the southern suburb of Dahia, where Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah was killed last week. This comes a day after Iran fired over 180 missiles into Israel, drawing condemnation and even stringent retaliation from Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden said on Wednesday he would not support any Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear sites in response to its ballistic missile attack. However, he urged Israel to act proportionally against its regional arch foe. Biden talked to G7 leaders who said they are still hopeful for diplomatic solution in the West Asia.
I called a meeting of the G7 today. We're working on a joint statement all of us agree on. From Japan to France to Germany to etc. We'll be discussing with the Israelis what they're going to do, but all 7 of us agree that they have a right to respond, but they should respond in proportion.
Well, UK Defence Minister John Haley spoke to Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant to express total condemnation of Iran's massive missile attack against Israel. In a social media post, Haley said, and I quote, "I set out the UK's continuing steadfast commitment to Israel's security. We must avoid further escalation and secure an immediate ceasefire in Lebanon and Gaza." Meanwhile, the Gulf Cooperation Council has affirmed its support for Lebanon during such a critical stage. It also called for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip late on Wednesday after holding an extraordinary ministerial meeting in Doha. The meeting was held to discuss the latest regional developments. The Council also condemned the escalation of conflict in Lebanon and the occupied Palestinian territories, calling on all involved parties to exercise self-restraint and refrain from violence. And various countries, including the US, UK, Germany, Spain and Slovakia, continue to evacuate their citizens from Lebanon to evade the escalating crisis. A charter flight taking British citizens out of Lebanon arrived at Birmingham International Airport on Wednesday. Earlier in the day, British Foreign Minister David Lammy said that more such flights were planned in the coming days. Britain has urged nationals to leave Lebanon immediately. Germany, too, continued its evacuation of non-essential staff and vulnerable citizens from Lebanon. Germany's Airbus arrived in Beirut with 5 tons of relief supplies and will bring back 130 particularly vulnerable Germans. The German Foreign Ministry raised its crisis level for missions in Beirut, Ramallah and Tel Aviv again at the weekend, though the embassies remain operational. There are currently 1,800 registered German citizens in Lebanon, of which some 110 people were evacuated on Monday. And the United States, too, organized a flight that carried about 100 American citizens and their relatives out of Lebanon. Besides, Spain and Slovakia are also preparing evacuation of its citizens and other EU nationals using military plane. And for more on this, we have Akshay Dongre joining us from Delhi. Well, Akshay, good morning. The first question to you, Israel retaliated by striking in the heart of Beirut, especially after the missiles attack. But the big question is, what happens next?
Well, Lipakshi, that is a very interesting question. In fact, the whole of West Asia is all dependent on this question, that how the countries are going to respond to the crisis that has, in fact, now come at a position where it's either an all-out war, or it's a very difficult step for Iran and both Israel to now start taking steps back and somewhere reach out to the public that that a war or a conflict with the other country is not any way forward, because what we are seeing right now with the countries evacuating their people from Lebanon, travel advisories being issued for people traveling to Iran as well, people traveling to Israel, people traveling to Lebanon. The entire area has in fact become quite destabilized, and what we are seeing right now is a tragedy that's now taking place in the West Asian region. The region has been hit by terrorism. The region has been hit by other kind of crises, but now what we are seeing, the prospect of an all-out war is really dragging down the economy of West Asia, is threatening the infrastructure of the country as a whole. And now when we look at what's next to come, clearly Israel, while it has sent out a message that it will be retaliating against Iran, so far the retaliation has not come, and that has been the only good news in the past few days, that after the missile attacks, which in fact failed to impact Israel as such, the Israeli government has not responded with an attack on the Iranian soil, which is just keeping the area or the region of West Asia from a total devastation because of a prospect of an all-out war. So now it is for the world leaders to decide. The United Nations Security Council, the countries themselves, they have to also come up with the solution to the kind of crisis that has been going on for a year. War is not an option in that region. Both Israel understands that, Iran understands that, but
right.
For narrative, threats have been given to each other, which has not been for the benefit of either the countries or the people of the West Asian region.
Right, Akshay. Also bleak vision there, of course, but large-scale evacuations going on from Lebanon. Also, Biden spoke to G7 leaders who said they are still hopeful for a diplomatic solution in the region. Can we see any kind of hope there?
Well, if there has to be a ceasefire, there has to be a diplomatic solution. It has to be now, because both the sides have, in fact, had their fair share of attacking the other party. Iran has launched ballistic missiles at Israel. Israel has already, killed the chief of Hamas as well as the chief of Hezbollah. So their domestic politics is somewhat satisfied. Now, if hostage returns takes place, there can be actually some kind of toning down from Israel's side. That is a possibility, and this is the only possibility to stop a war, because the kind of signs that we are seeing in the past few days, nothing but an all-out war is pretty much imminent in the next few days or the next few weeks, perhaps. Because the way the attacks have been going, or the way Iran attacked, had it been more ballistic missiles, had it been more devastating attacks, then certainly Israeli government also would have retaliated, and then right now the world would have been seeing a war. Right now the world would have been seeing a total economic collapse in West Asia. Impact on the global economy, and somewhere down the line, impact on our pockets as well. When it comes to basic commodities, when it comes to fuel, when it comes to other things, other necessities, the world already in crisis would have seen another one. So the prospect of an all-out war is just not a viable option for anybody, not in the region, not in the world. So it remains to be seen that whether the leaders will actually compromise on at some extent, and take a few steps back from the crisis, which is almost at the brink of war, and is evident by the evacuation that are taking place in the region, Pakshi.
Rightly said, Akshay. All-out war is definitely not a viable option. But meanwhile, also Israel barred entry to UN Chief Guterres from entering the country for not strongly condemning Iran's missile attack, reflecting broader Israeli frustration with the UN. What can we read between the lines there?
Well, yes, Israel has been pretty much upset with the way United Nations has been working. Now, Israel has to understand that United Nations, unlike the United States of America, is not going to take only an anti West Asian stand when it comes to other countries besides Israel. From what we have seen, the U.S. government did in fact condemn the Iranian attack. In fact, Joe Biden also directed the U.S. forces present in the region to shoot down any ballistic missiles coming Israel's way. That was part one. We saw a White House spokesperson stating when the question was raised that whether Israeli attacks against Hezbollah, against other parties, be it Lebanon, be it Hamas, how is it going to de-escalate the crisis? So the statement that was given by the U.S. was that an offensive may also force diplomacy on many occasions, which was essentially defending Israel's attacks against Hezbollah or Hamas or in the region where airstrikes were happening. So it was a one-sided stand that was taken by the U.S. For Israel. And, when it comes to other countries, U.S. has taken quite a stringent stand. So something like this, Israel was expecting from the United Nations as well. When it did not see it coming, it seems that, there are certain politicians in Israel that are quite angry with the United Nations. It has happened in the past as well, where, inaction by UN has been questioned.
Right, Akshay. Thank you so much for all those details from there. And now the latest update on Russia-Ukraine conflict. A Russian-guided bomb struck a high-rise apartment block in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, late on Wednesday. Regional governor said the bomb struck between the third and fourth floors of the building located in the Saltivkar district and also had injured at least 10 people. In light of the ongoing attacks, President Volodymyr Zelensky emphasized the need for increased assistance from Ukraine's Western allies. Earlier, Russian drones also attacked post infrastructure in Ukraine's southern Odessa region, damaging a grain facility and buildings at a border crossing.